Hello, and welcome to our webinar, Summer Reading and Series Nonfiction. I'm Kelly Ferreira, Associate Editor for Books for Youth at Booklist. Before we begin, I'd like to go over some technical details. Links to today's slide presentation and title list were included in the reminder email you received from Zoom 1 hour ago. To download them, please open that email, scroll to the bottom, and click on the links located there. You can also download the slides and title list by typing the URLs on this screen into your web browser. If you have any trouble accessing these materials, please contact us at webinars@booklistonline.com. The audience is in listen-only mode, but we welcome any questions you may have. On the bottom of your screen is a toolbar with a button for Q&A. If you have a question or need technical assistance, simply click Q&A and type your message into the box that appears. We will do our best to respond to all tech-related questions, and we'll pass along all other questions to today's panelists so they can follow up with you after the webinar. Booklist offers closed captioning on all webinars. To enable or disable captions on your screen, please look for and click the Captions icon on the toolbar mentioned earlier. From there, you can select Show or Hide Captions from the menu that appears. If you choose to enable subtitles, you can adjust the size of the captions at any time by selecting Caption Settings. And finally, Booklist expects all participants to maintain an atmosphere of respect and fairness. Anyone who violates this standard of behavior, including engaging in any form of harassment, may, at the discretion of the organizers, be immediately removed. Today, we have the pleasure of hearing from Carolina Schwartz, publisher strategist at We the Content, Andy Dean, content marketing manager at Nomad Press, Anna Erickson, vice president of sales at The Creative Company, and Michelle Budzilowicz, editorial director, product innovation, and Annie Garnish, senior marketing associate, both at Highlights. First, we'll hear from Carolina Schwartz. Carolina is a children's publishing consultant with 20 years of experience in marketing, sales, and content development. Through We the Content, she has worked with publishers of different sizes from Europe, Latin America, and the US, developing systems that generate ongoing demand for their titles and reduce returns, ultimately putting more books into the hands of young readers. Thanks for joining us, Carolina.
Thank you. Thank you, Kelly. It's a pleasure to be here with you today and present to you some of the amazing nonfiction titles that Albatros has in store for you. So at first, I'm gonna start with Diary of a Bee. Tyler, if you get there, you go. Diary of a Bee is one of my favorite titles this season, where the reader gets to follow the delightful adventures of Matilda the bee in a fully illustrated diary that reveals the vital role that bees play in nature and in their life cycle. If you move on to the next slide, so the attendees can see the beautiful illustrations in this book that presents a captivating narrative that combines the story with fascinating facts, exploring how bees live, their daily activities, and the various roles they play in the hive. So this book presents Matilda the bee and her friend Thomas, as you can see it here, and what their life is like in their 37 days from the moment that they're an egg to the moment that they die. The beautiful thing about this book, and one of the reasons why we really love it, in addition to it having amazing illustrations, adorable bees that children will just love and learn to fall in love with, is that not only does it introduce readers to the importance of the bees in nature and all the different jobs that they have, but it also has some additional lessons, like, for example, it teaches readers and children how important it is to work as a team. There are amazing lessons for what can be possible if we all work together. And it also introduces readers to life cycles. The beautiful thing about this book is that even though Matilda dies at the very end, the reader is not left with sadness, because it is really it's presented in a way in which we understand how important the role of a bee is and what life cycles really constitute. Next up, we have two titles that I'm going to be presenting together. They're part of the same series. We have Our Marvelous Memory, which is part of How Your Brain Works. This is a beautiful STEM book that explores how memory works, why we remember certain things, and while at the same time we might forget some of the some other things that just like go through our minds. This is a relatively short book. It's 20 pages. And if we go on to the next slide, Taylor, so I can show you the beautiful illustrations. There's a lot of color, succinct text with which presents readers with very complex concepts presented in an engaging way, encouraging them to truly understand memory functions, and it offers practical tips for keeping their memory sharp. One of the some of the topics that this book introduces readers to are where memories go, what is memory, as you can see here on this interior, what happens inside the brain, how is it possible that children remember certain things, but adults don't remember the same things. If you move on to the next slide, we can see another set in there. What happens to memory in the old age, and many other truly interesting topics that even us as adults, were very delightful to read about. It also includes the end papers, also include further reading and some important information to learn a little bit more about this topic. The next title in this series is very similar to this one, and it's the perfect companion because it's Our Incredible Imagination. So we get to understand also how the brain works in terms of imagination, not only for understanding, not only when we get to understand our memory, but also when we're trying to understand imagination and how imagination works. Exactly, it follows exactly the same layout, the same color, the same type of format. If we move on to the next slide, we can see this clearly. And in this case, the imagination shows us why children have very vivid imaginations, where then as we grow older, the imagination tends to taper down a little bit. Some of the topics in this very truly interesting and insightful book include what ideas can you have? Where do ideas come from? What is imagination? What place does imagination play in the brain? Imagination in everyday life, imagination in art and science, etc., etc. It is truly a lot of information presented in a very visually appealing way. Next up, we have The Awesome Physics in Your City. This is the second title in the All Around Us series. The first title was I'm going to present to you in a little bit. We do have a third title in the series coming up in the fall, which is going to be The Amazing Chemistry in Your Home. The reason why we truly love this title is that it introduces a very complex topics, STEM concepts, in a way that children can truly understand it. If you move on to the next slide, because it introduces them as they relate to their own reality. So it introduces them, in this particular case, the book reveals scientific principles in an everyday urban environment. And so the children can learn how the role that physics plays in a swimming pool, next one up, at the doctor's office, or even in a construction site. It is designed for curious minds, and it makes learning accessible and fun. There's also some very safe experiments that the children can do at home. And this series is put together by the amazing Theater of Science, which is a group that for nearly 20 years has been coming together to introduce very complex topics in a very easy to understand way, theaters, presentations, etc., etc. Next up, we have the first title in this series, which has a very nice school library journal review there. You can see it, an excellent introduction to physics in a highly relatable format and a strong choice for libraries. Next up, we have Encyclopedia of Undersea Life for Young Readers. This is a perfect encyclopedia for the summer because it introduces children to undersea animals. They're in contact with a lot of water in the summer. So I don't have to explain to you what an encyclopedia looks like, but if you move on to the next page, this is 48 pages of information covering the Pacific, Atlantic, Arctic, and Indian Oceans, and it introduces young readers to vibrant coral reefs, to sea creatures that you can find under very deep sea waters, etc., etc. It has a very large format. One of the things that we truly appreciate about this title is that the illustrations take center stage and the text is very easy to consume, rich text, and it explores 183 undersea inhabitants where children can like learn it all at once or take it in different at times. Next up, we have the other titles in this encyclopedia series: Encyclopedia of Animals, Plants, Fungi, and Lichens, and Encyclopedia of Birds. I'm trying to speed it up a little bit. Next up, we have two titles that are part of the same series. We have Everyday STEM, pretty much in the same way as The Amazing Chemistry in Your Home introduces children to chemistry around their home and physics. This title, or Camping Trip and Planning Grandma's Party, which is coming up in a second, it introduces STEM in a very, very relatable way. In this particular case, there is a family that goes on vacation, and in doing so, children are introduced to physics and concepts that they can really learn just by doing, just by exploring, by evaluating what's really available to them in nature. And it also makes for a great summer title as kids are out there on a holiday. They get to learn about cardinal directions, spatial geometry, gravity, water cycles, astronomy, etc., etc. This is a great addition to any collection. And next up, we have the companion to that, which is Planning Grandma's Party. What I love about this title is that this family is planning Grandma's party, and in doing so, children get to experiment with cooking, baking, blowing up balloons, as you can see in the next slide. And in doing so, they get to learn about measuring. So they get to learn about measuring weight, volume, distance, speed. I think kids will really appreciate this because there's been kind of like a revival of baking based on a number of shows on Netflix, like Is It Cake and Bakers, British Bake Off, and a number of other things where I think kids are just like really intrigued about baking and preparing, cooking in the kitchen. And so it's a great way to introduce STEM to them. Next up, we have Whose Baby Is It?, where we get to follow a mama goose as she searches for her lost gosling. And in doing so, children, I have another title in the same series, but if you move along, children get to discover different birds and different animals as they look for this gosling, and they're introduced to with every page that they turn, you can see it has lift the flap options. Each page reveals fascinating creatures like baby frogs, wild boars, and squirrels. This is a great summer addition to kids that love to read about nature and want to compare what they have on the book to what they can find out in the forest, in the meadow, whatever it is that there are. Likewise, What Plant Is It? Follows a young jawhawk, which is looking for plants and food to stock up for the winter. Next up. And in doing so, children are introduced to a variety of plants and vegetation, giving them a truly 360 kind of concept of of flora and fauna if you put them all together. Next up, we see other books in the series, and I'm holding one of them. We have Whose Home Is It and Whose Track Is It? And you can complete the collection. Next up, I have two titles that are picked from our backlist. We have Means of Transport That Changed the World. And this title, as you can see from the interiors, it introduces the title is kind of in a way self-explanatory, but it introduces readers to different means of transport that changed the world in a very, this is for older readers, 12 to 15 years of age. If you move on to the next slide, there is a wealth of information that they can read about. And what we like a lot more than Means of Transport That Changed the World is the next title in the series, which is Means of Transport That Almost Changed the World. So these are all the outliers that didn't make it to history, but they're equally important. So for readers that like to explore and like to play with engineering and like to learn about different inventions, this is their perfect addition to them. So I hope you truly enjoyed the titles, and this is where you can find all the beautiful catalogs by Albatros, and you can learn about all of our titles. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you so much, Carolina. Next, we'll hear from Andy Dean. Andy has written 22 nonfiction books, plus a social emotional picture book about parental depression. She has worked as a children's book editor and marketer at Nomad Press for 11 years and loves visiting schools and libraries to talk to kids about science, writing, poetry, mental wellness, and anything else students want to know. Andy lives in rural New Hampshire with her husband, 3 sons, and too many chickens. Thanks for being here today, Andy.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Hi, yes, I am from Nomad Press. I'm very excited to join you all today. So I am in New Hampshire. The company is in Vermont, but we're right next to each other. And it has been snowing all day up here. So just not so happy about that, but I am happy to be with you. Okay, Nomad Press. We have been publishing children's educational books for 23 years. I've been here for nearly half of that, which is kind of blowing my mind when I realized that a little earlier. We are a small independent press. I kind of think of us as small but mighty. And we're lifelong learners, and our whole goal is to spark curiosity in kids and encourage them to keep learning long after the last page has been turned. We think of our books as a jumping off point, not a final destination. Next slide, please. We have four different series that we're actively adding new titles to right now. Our picture book science series for kiddos 5 to 8, our Explore Your World series for ages 7 to 10, Build It Yourself for ages 9 to 12, and Inquire and Investigate for our 12 to 15-year-old students. Next slide, please. The two books I'm going to talk about today are both in our Build It series for ages 9 to 12, but we'll get into that in a little bit. Okay, so why should you consider Nomad Press books for summertime reading? Most of our books actually get sold into school districts, into school libraries and public libraries, enrichment programs. But just look at what they have to offer kids even during the summertime. We pack our books with text elements that promote learning and make learning fun and easy to do. We have glossary words that are defined on the page. We also have a glossary in the back, but you don't have to turn to the back and interrupt your reading. You can find the definitions right on the page in front of you. We have graphic novel style illustrations that have its own little subplot going on with characters of a diverse range of characters. So we sort of have dialogue, we insert dialogue that way. The kiddos travel to different places around the globe. They're very compelling little graph. We have some wonderful illustrators that we work with. I love our illustrators. Next slide, please. Photography, we have some really compelling photography, maps, charts, other visual learning tools, because kids learn in lots of different ways. Some kids learn really well with narrative text. They can read a paragraph and know exactly what they're supposed to know. Other kids, they need something different, a more visual style of learning. Next slide, please. QR codes, kind of in keeping with that whole different people learn in different ways. We offer QR codes that link to primary sources online, videos, TED Talks, podcasts, anything else that kiddos might, that might be sticky for some kids. I know, my middle boy, Luca, when he was I won't say he hates books, but he definitely came close to it. He was not a kid who wanted to sit down and read a book, but show him a video of something and he got it like that. And in keeping with that too, our books are packed with hands-on activities. Every book has at least 2 to 3 per chapter. This is another way for kids to get their hands dirty, to figure things out by taking things apart, by creating models, anything that kind of, gets those synapses going in different parts of the brain. Next slide, please. Text to world connections and questions. We like to say that, when people read our books, they sort of understand that science doesn't happen in a laboratory. It's not just people in white coats who are scientists. Everyone is a scientist. Science is all around you. And we try to make that connection right on the page. We ask kiddos, to connect what they were just reading to what they see in their daily lives. It's another way to just get them thinking about that. Back matter, we have, actually front matter and back matter. We have a timeline, again, the glossary. We have resources for lots more learning, a bibliography, and an index, all tools that children need to know how to use as they go on in their academic career. Also, that's just another great way to add another layer of learning to it. Next slide, please. Okay, so let's go back to the question, why should we promote our books as summer reading books? When I was a kid, summer reading to me meant curling up with a novel, and these are not that kind of book, interactive books. But, every adult, whether you're a teacher or a anyone working with kids, they're all concerned about that summer, when kids can lose some of the headway that they made, but prevent it in fun ways, ideally, so kids can still have that sense of summertime. So our books have hands-on activities to get kids engaged in learning with fun, creative, and active ways. These nonfiction books spark interest and stir up curiosity, and that's perfect for combating dreaded summer slide. Books from Nomad Press tie into the curriculum, so topics are relevant and timely, and they're covering material that they may have covered in the year before, or they will see again in future years, depending on their age group. Next slide, please. Okay, so the first book I was going to talk about is Conservation Success. This is honestly one of my favorite books that we have ever published, and that's saying a lot. I've worked on hundreds of books. We have several books about climate science, and in every single one of those books, what we try to do is inject some hope into it, because it can get, even for adults, it can start feeling a little desolate when you read about climate science and the challenges that are ahead of us. So with this book, we kind of wanted to be all about hope. We wanted to really focus on steps people were taking all around the world to make conservation possible. So that's what we did, and it was a joy to work on that. Okay. I'm going to turn my camera off because I think my internet, like I said, it's snowing and we live in the wild. So sometimes snow can mean no internet. So I'm still here, but my camera's off. Okay. Conservation success, protecting wild spaces and species with hands-on science activities for kids. Scientists ages 9 to 12 discover different conservation efforts around the world. Learn about the individuals, scientists, organizations, and countries involved in protecting species, habitats, and our planet. There are many ways to approach conservation, including restoration, rewilding, reintroduction, recovering species populations, reconnecting habitats, community-based conservation, ecotourism, protections and laws, and above all, education. In this book, we investigate the people and science guiding initiatives and see how these efforts will inform future conservation. Hands-on activities, critical thinking exercises, fun facts, words to know, links to online resources take all kinds of learners on an investigative journey to conservation projects around the world. And some of the hands-on activities that we include in this book are experiment with oil spill cleanup, develop seed bombs, make biodegradable plastic, rewild your yard with your parents' or landlord's permission, model a wildlife crossing, and build a bee hotel. Next slide. Here is our timeline. So almost all of our books start with a timeline to sort of help ground the events to, the rest of the country's history or the world's history. Next slide. Here you can see the graphic novel style illustrations. We've got our QR code there. You can see the glossary word defined on the page, essential questions. Every chapter is bookmarked beginning and end with an essential question to help kids focus and pay attention. Next slide. This is one of our activities, one that we suggest you do it outside because it can get a little dirty. But we have a list of supplies. We have step-by-step instructions. We have illustrations for some of the more complicated instructions. And there's always a try this or what happened, which is just a way for us to ask kids to reflect on what they learned from the activity or to suggest a way to take it a step further. Next slide. Oh, and in this book, we have sidebars that they have a little biography of a kid conservationist or a group run by kids that has been successful in practicing conservation. And this way, kids see, people their age make a difference and perhaps be inspired to do something similar. Next slide. Next slide, please. So this is a sample of the back matter of a metric convert. Oh, sorry, maybe I'm blinking out a little bit again. Well, that was there we go. There was our list of essential questions from every chapter, a list of books and websites for further learning, our metric conversion chart, which is quite helpful in classrooms. Yeah, so that's great stuff for the back matter. Next slide, let's move on to the next book. Sound. Okay, the science of sound, pitch, volume, music, and noise with hands-on science activities for kids. This is funny. This book was delayed for so long. It was a pre-pandemic book, and then it got put on the delay shelf for several years, and finally we're getting it back. It's one of those books that's hung around for a while. Okay, the science of sound is a symphony of learning as kids determine how to identify the sounds around them and learn how sounds form and travel. Plus, discover how scientists use sound waves to map the ocean floor, diagnose problems inside the body, and investigate climate change. In the science of sound, kids have fun learning about sound as a sensation, a form of communication, and a survival tool, and not just for humans. Hands-on STEM careers, activities, entertaining illustrations, essential questions, fascinating sidebars, and links to online resources and videos bring the science of sound to a crescendo. And some of the activities we find in this book are make a stethoscope, build a homemade instrument, design a new kind of speaker, develop a sound maze, investigate soundproofing material, and test a string telephone, which actually works. I tried that one, and yes, you can actually hear sound through a string telephone. It's amazing. Next slide, please. Oh, so we get to see the word cloud in this example. All of our books, we have one with a cloud that has all the glossary words made into some kind of image at the very beginning. Next slide. In this book, we really promoted career connection. So every chapter has at least one, sometimes two sidebars about some career in the audio field, whether it is an audiologist, an X-ray technician. I think we had some careers that were using sound to map the ocean floor, exploratory careers, things like that. Really fascinating stuff. And it gets kids thinking about how science doesn't just happen in offices or laboratories. Science is everywhere and they can be a part of it. Next slide. Essential questions again. We start and end each chapter with an essential question. There's another QR code going on, lots of photography. You can go to the next slide. Games. Sometimes we put games in instead of an activity. Again, it's another way that kids love to learn. It's especially good for summer reading. Who doesn't love doing a game in the summer too? And next slide. And that was the last slide. Thank you so much. Feel free to reach out anytime and browse our website for other books. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Andy. Next, we'll hear from Anna Erickson. Anna has worked in the children's book publishing for over 25 years and is stubbornly convinced that all children deserve access to high quality reading materials. She's based in Oakland, California. The floor is yours, Anna.
Thank you so much, and thanks for being with us today, everybody. So the Creative Company, as many of you know, is an independent Minnesota-based children's publisher. We are actually approaching our centennial. It's still a few years off, but in 2032, the company will be 100 years old. We are delighted this season to talk to you about the series nonfiction that we do for our core school and public library market, but I actually wanted to kick it off with two standalone board books from our Creative Editions picture book list. First one, because it is so perfect for the Color Our World summer reading theme that many of you are supporting this summer. Creative Editions has done a lovely assortment of board books that are nonfiction but illustrated with a very poetic tone. And that is certainly the case here, where we imagine what it would be like for a butterfly to go to school. And what does their classroom look like? Well, it's the great outdoors. What does art class look like for a butterfly moving through their world? So lots of evocative images, and I think a perfect book for this particular year's summer reading theme. We also have an illustrated board book called A Home Like This by the same author, Laura Purdy Salas, but illustrated by Miriam Nerlov. And this gives you a range of different shelters that appear in nature with different creatures, such as birds, mammals, including baboons that make semi-permanent nests in trees every night. So you get a whole selection. Okay, but shifting gears now to our series nonfiction, which is largely photographic. Creative does series nonfiction for all the way from kind of pre-K to the high school level. And we've got quite a bit this season that's serving the middle school and high school level, particularly higher interest titles. And you'll see throughout our publishing that these are books that are meant to be supplementary series nonfiction. They're often kid choice books. They're good looking, they feel good, they're beautiful packages. So we see them as equally appropriate for the school library during the school year, as well as reaching deeper into the public libraries for the summer season. Most of what you see here is going to be available simultaneously in Spanish as well as English, and we print our books in reinforced hardcovers for the libraries, as well as paperbacks and ebooks. Starting Out is one of our youngest programs. It's a brand that we do for ages 4 to 6. And these are books that use a first-person perspective to introduce topics such as baby animals and transportation and beyond. This season, it's a set of baby animals, and you get these great little, almost read-aloud friendly texts that talk about creatures such as baby bats. These books do have full back matter as well, but they're really a lovely introduction in a 16-page format for informational text for the youngest kids. As ever with Creative, and you're going to see this throughout everything we look at today, the design and the image selection is key. We really want these to be visually compelling as well as great reading experiences. Marvels is our new program for the first grade level, kind of edging up to second. This is a brand that serves an array of topics, and this season we've got 2 new sets, one for animals and one for transportation. And Marvels offer a real tip of the hat to the world of comic books. You see that in the covers, but also in the interiors. So these are 8x8, 24-page books. And you get a really straight ahead, great informational text experience, but you also get the added bonus of these little speech bubbles that run throughout that give the topic at hand, in this case, Beautiful Brown Bear, a voice in the matter. So there's this little touch of humor and fun that leavens the straight ahead nonfiction presentation. Again, really compelling images, a very contemporary design and look, full back matter in all of these. This is the new set in the transportation section, covers everything from big rigs to tow trucks. Similar thing, you get a comic feel in the cover, comic book feel in the cover. And then in the text itself, in addition to the informational text that runs through it, the speech bubbles of the objects at hand, giving their commentary, their take on the proceedings, often with that little touch of humor. One of our hallmark series, really for the last decade, has been Amazing Animals. Many of you know this series well. And a couple of years ago, we went back and refreshed, revised, and updated the entire program, and at the same time translated everything into Spanish. So there's over 70 titles in the backlist, and those are all now in current copyright, fully up to date, good to go, new covers, new ISBNs. If you haven't explored them, do. They look amazing. But this season, we're offering the next go-ahead set. So these are brand new titles that we haven't done before. But they have the signature Amazing Animals look, which are, in my personal opinion, some of the best looking single subject animal titles out there. They just have a very clean feel that starts with a cover. But then as you move into the text, which is a 8, almost 9 by 11 trim, so slightly oversized, for that first, second grade range, and even third and beyond who might be reading below level, these are incredibly friendly to read. They use a lot of white space, which sounds like an odd thing to get excited about, but I think just that text has so much room to breathe in these books that it really pulls you in a way that makes the actual reading experience incredibly accessible. As always, there's a lot of information packed into the captions and sidebars, and the images are some of the best you'll ever see. Each one of these books includes a little origin story at the end, in terms of like how people talk about the creation of that animal in a place where it is indigenous. Amazing Animals is also available in Spanish, as I mentioned, and this fall you're going to see our first set of bilingual editions. Amazing is not just for animals anymore. This season, you'll see Amazing Space also. That brings that signature amazing look to new topics. In this case, everything from asteroids, the moon, space vehicles, and to the sun. Same look, same feel, but getting us into other topics such as sports, machines, and now science. We're pleased to update the NBA Champion Series this season. So we do these every few years to keep them current. These are full team histories that take us into, the all of the relevant, key games, stars, the different cities that teams have played in. So this is a set that focuses on every team that's won a championship in the NBA. These are for second grade and up. Again, the images are just amazing. So these are books for fans for sure. But even if you're not familiar with basketball, this is a good way to get introduced to the game. New this season, and now moving up to the middle school level, is the 7 Summits. This set introduces us to the 7 tallest mountains around the world. And this is a great example of how creative really crosses curriculums. So these books give you several things: geology and geography for sure, local flora and fauna, and also a window into the human obsession and pursuit of climbing tall peaks. So it's a lot about the mechanics of climbing, the history of climbing, and each book contains a profile of 2 significant folks who have reached the top. They're good to also include not just the European fellows who have had support to get to the top, but also women and the people doing the support to get the folks who are coming in from outside up these tall peaks. Enduring Mysteries is also for the middle school level, and this is where we're trying to keep those high interest topics going at the higher reading levels. So classic paranormal, evergreen paranormal topics, but presented for 5th grade and up. So there's a lot of depth here. And the 48-page format really gives you room to dive into some of the reasons that some of these stories have gotten going, real fossils and real history that have inspired stories of creatures that may not be quite as real. And then finally today on our high school level, we have the Odysseys program. This is an ongoing program that serves a range of topics each year. And this season we have 3 sets, Odysseys in Spycraft, Odysseys in Extreme Sports, and Odysseys in Sports Soccer Champions, to keep high school kids engaged in a book format with a very visually driven presentation. These are 80-page books. They're beautifully done. They don't shy away from things like full-page images, as well as a more complex text for our higher readers. So that is it for the Creative Company for this spring season. We look forward to seeing you online and at future webinars, and we thank you, Kelly, and the team at Booklist for today's presentation.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Anna. Finally, we'll hear from Michelle Batsilowitz and Annie Garnish. Michelle is editorial director for product innovation at Highlights. She started at Highlights as a one-year editorial intern on the magazine 15 and a half years ago and has worked in many different roles and departments since then. No day at work is the same, and she loves it. Annie is a senior marketing associate at Highlights. For the past 8 years, she's helped bring engaging children's books to market through creative campaigns and cross-functional collaboration. She especially enjoys building strong relationships that help great ideas come to life, and she never skips a chance to explore the children's section of any bookstore. Thanks for joining us, Michelle and Annie.
Thank you so much, Kelly. It's fun to hear about all the titles, and I have like a bunch on my list now, so thank you for hosting. So I'm Michelle. I'm so excited to introduce you to a brand new nonfiction series today, the Who Am I Riddle Puzzle Books. So on the next slide, you can see that the first 2 32-page hardcover books, Sharks and Pandas, come out in October, but you can pre-order them now. And since librarians have been asking for fresh new nonfiction, we're going really big with this series, publishing 2 more titles, Tigers and Axolotls, the following season. Now, we know that Highlights Press is primarily known for consumable activity books, which do not work well in your libraries and classrooms. But I am happy to tell you that not only are these books hardcover, but the puzzles in these books are entirely visual and do not require writing of any kind. So we made this fun little pencil crossed out graphic just for this, just to remind ourselves. So on the next slide, as we saw, there's so much nonfiction out there and on the market. And as we've been studying and looking at, we think we hit on a really unique and engaging combination of facts, animal riddles, and photo puzzles in a way that make learning fun. So you can't really get the puzzles and photos and illustrations mixed in this way. And Andy's going to talk a little bit more about our author later. And we've worked with a lot of experts on these as well. So on the next slide, you'll see the details about the shark book, including the various ocean animals that are covered in this book. We learned some fun things about all sorts of different things, like this really ugly anglerfish. On the next slide, you'll see sample pages from the shark book, and we love that the illustrations really complement the beautiful wildlife photography, and the fun facts are really supported by really clever visuals. So today I learned that a group of sharks is called a shiver, and I feel like kids aren't going to forget an interesting fact like that with the little image of the shark shivering. So on the next slide, you'll see that each of these books also have back matter for additional learning, including more mystery animals to puzzle out, a fun quiz about what kids have learned, and even a glossary of terms. These pages are not final. We're going to tweak them right up until the FTP date, but we're sharing them here now for you, so enjoy. On the next slide, you'll see more details about pandas and other bears. This is not the final art, but we're covering a whole variety of bears, so it just gets cuter and cuter and cuter as you go. The next slide has Tigers and Other Big Cats, which is one of the titles coming out in spring of 2026. So not for this summer, but for next summer. Each of these books follow the same structure and format. So they're really, you can get the whole series. They have riddles, picture puzzles, fun facts, all that really awesome back matter, additional mystery animals, a quiz, and a glossary. And last but not least, on the next slide, the fourth book in the series is axolotls and other amphibians. So we noticed that a lot of nonfiction books combine amphibians and reptiles into one book, but we felt like there were enough really cool amphibians to have their own books, and we do plan to cover reptiles in a future book. So if you head to the next slide, when we think about future books, we talk a lot about which animals to feature, and we talk to kids and explore trends. And we knew axolotls were super trendy thanks to Minecraft. But on a personal note, this is my daughter Ada. She started first grade in September, and her teacher, Mrs. Jones, actually has an axolotl as a class pet. So that axolotl's name is Gamork. You can see her here in her little tank. You can squint and see her. And the first graders love to feed her worms. They drew pictures and instructions, and it's like the best thing ever. And then for Halloween, inspired by Gamork, my daughter had to be an axolotl for Halloween, and I couldn't get a non-blurry picture. And then I crocheted her an axolotl keychain for her backpack, which somehow turned into me making 20 axolotls for her class for Halloween. So like the axolotl love is strong. And as an editor working on this series, acquired it pre-pandemic, similar to what another folks had said, you know, I'm excited for the series, but as a parent, I literally cannot wait for this axolotl book to come out. And just for fun, because we love book lists and we love librarians and teachers, I crocheted 3 more axolotls for this webinar as a giveaway. So Annie's going to tell you later how you can win one of those at the end of the presentation. But on the next slide, let's not let my 6.5-year-old dictate all of our animal subjects. You can see our future title plans, 2 new titles each season. And we'd love to hear from you if you think any topics your kids, your students, your patrons, anybody you would love. We did get a request for a capybara, and our science editor was like, yes, I will do that photo research. I am happy to do that photo research. So drop them in the Q&A, and we'd love to hear from you. So now over to Annie.
Thank you, Michelle. Hi, everyone. I'm Annie Garnish, Senior Marketing Associate at Highlights. Today, I'm excited to walk you through how we're supporting the Who Am I series and a few other titles as you go on to the next slide with marketing efforts and library-focused outreach. As you just heard, these books are a super fun mix of riddles, puzzles, and facts. So from a marketing perspective, we're positioning this series as something that really gamifies nonfiction, because we know teachers and librarians are always looking for ways to hook readers who might shy away from traditional nonfiction. This format is also super library friendly. Like Michelle said, no writing required, they're hardcover, and have content that supports visual learning, curiosity, and early science literacy. We will be promoting these titles at trade shows with giveaways and with targeted trade advertising, and also on Highlight's social channels and through our educator newsletters. Plus, we will have printed galleys ready for ALA and other shows this summer, so you can get an early sneak peek. We will be doing direct outreach to schools and library systems with digital teaching guides, and we are hoping to schedule virtual and in-person author events. More to come on that. You can go ahead to the next slide. We're so thrilled to be working with author Jody Jensen Schaefer, who brings major nonfiction credentials to the series. Her books have earned starred reviews, state award nominations, and lots of educator love. Jody has a strong presence in schools and libraries. In fact, tomorrow, Jody will actually get to meet Gamork. She's visiting Mrs. Jones's first grade classroom, the one with the class axolotl that Michelle just talked about. We know the kids are in for a treat, and we're pretty sure Gamork will be impressed too. You can go ahead to the next slide. Here are just a few more examples of Jody's awesome books. These reviews really speak to the heart of her work. She makes complex topics feel engaging, accessible, and fun for young readers. Her books consistently resonate with both kids and the adults who work with them. And as you go on to the next slide, we can talk about Travis Foster, who is the illustrator in this series, along with the photographic visuals that we'll be showing. Here, we know visuals are a huge part of what draws kids in. So we're highlighting Travis Foster, the illustrator behind the series. His style is playful, expressive, and perfectly pairs with the wildlife photography in the books. You can go ahead to the next slide. As you can see, his illustrations really help position his books as a great visual experience for storytime, browsing, or independent readers who are still very picture-driven. Now back to Michelle for a sneak peek at a few more exciting new titles.
Yes, it's a little hard to talk about summer titles because it's freezing cold in PA here today, and what Andy had snow up in the New England. But you can go to the next slide, and we'll have our summer reading titles. We are publishing, if you go to the next slide, we have puzzle reader bind-ups. We've published individual titles that have been available for a few years, but we took 6 books and bound them up together for kids who can't get enough. And these books were developed with classroom experts, and we tried to think of everything a teacher or librarian might want, working with teachers and librarians on feedback. And we leveled the books with Lexile and Fontes and Pinnell. We used an easy to read font with no single story A with single story A's. And we know that puzzles help motivate even the most reluctant readers to explore the story. So we want to help reduce reading anxiety with both the humor and puzzles in this story. So if you go to the next slide, first up, we have Bear and Friends, which actually Jody also wrote. And the kids will be getting a copy of that tomorrow in the first grade class, spoiler alert. So this is when kids are discovering reading in level P. Readers can read the story in which Bear and Friends are always searching for something. They're also searching for hidden letters. So again, that letter recognition for the real young kids. And this bind-up is 144 pages. In the middle at level 1, we have Nick and Knack when kids are starting to explore reading. And these characters are super creative. They're like makers, they're STEM. They're always making something out of what they find. Nick is a kid and Knack is a robot. And kids can solve the hidden pictures puzzles throughout the stories. And then we have a craft spread at the end that shows kids how to make the craft that Nick and Knack made. So super great for, how to instructional text reading, STEM for days. And then at level 2, which is Let's Read, we have Kit and Caboodle, and they are travel buddies with hilariously opposite personalities. It's like if Felix and Oscar did The Amazing Race. So in this level, kids can solve hidden pictures puzzles in each story. And then there's a picture dictionary that helps reinforce the new words that the kids learned. So you can see they kind of travel through the different levels, and none of them require writing, and they're perfect for librarians. So Annie's not going to talk about the next slide.
Yep. So speaking of visuals, we know how much you all love bookmarks. So we've created free printable bookmarks for our puzzle reader series. They're tied to each reading level and are a great way to extend the learning and the puzzle fun beyond the page. Just email us. We're happy to send 1, 2, or all 3 levels. Print as many as you need. And on the next slide, I think Michelle's going to speak to, yes, there you go.
So jokes are always a really good, fun way to sneak in some summer reading without feeling like you're reading anything too long. We know it's great for reluctant readers. This we have in a hardcover and paperback edition, 256 pages, all kid-friendly topics, animals, space, food, really bite-sized and fun, and help kids develop those language skills and build confidence. Telling jokes is a great way to build confidence. On the next slide, you can see some sample pages. And because we're highlights, you can trust there's no scatological jokes, no jokes that make fun of people, no inappropriate jokes. We even make our editorial assistants say all the tongue twisters out loud so that like nothing inappropriate happens or, inadvertently happens. So you can trust that these will be great for your libraries.
And if you go on to the next slide, we can talk about how we're supporting it through marketing. Jokes are a stealthy reading motivator. They're short, accessible, and encourage repeated reading and sharing. We're supporting the ultimate book of silly jokes for kids with National Telejoke Day promotions, joke-themed bookmarks, a digital event kit, and fun giveaways. It's a great option for displays or low-pressure summer reading picks and ideal for reluctant readers and classroom downtime. You can go on to the next slide. Before we wrap up, we wanted to share a little love for the recently published nonfiction title, The Ultimate Science Cookbook for Kids, which came out in February of this year. This book brings together kitchen creativity and hands-on science in a way that's fun, educational, and approachable for kids and families. It's already received glowing reviews from School Library Journal, Book List, the Children's Book Review, and more. We're so proud of the response it's getting, and we hope it inspires even more playful learning in libraries and classrooms. The teacher's guide for this book is now available. Created by educator and acclaimed children's author Marcy Colleen, it includes experiments, challenges, and discussion prompts that connect with key science concepts, from building simple machines to exploring DNA extraction. If you'd like the link to the downloadable teacher's guide, just reach out. And as a fun thank you, like Michelle had said, the first 3 people to do so will receive one of Michelle's famous crocheted axolotls. And if you go to the next slide, last but not least, this year we are celebrating Highlights Press's 10th anniversary. And we're marking the occasion in a big way, including a stage session presentation at ALA that covers 10 years of Highlights Press and Puzzle Magic, giveaways, a librarian dinner, and more. The Who Am I series is also part of our 10th anniversary Highlights Press campaign. So these titles will benefit from even more buzz. So it's not just a new series, it's part of a milestone moment for us. If you go to the next slide, you'll see our contact information to reach out. We wanted to say thank you all so much for spending time with us today and for everything you do to support young readers. If you have any questions, want to request an e-galley, or would like the link to the Teacher's Guide for the Ultimate Science Cookbook for Kids, please reach out. Our contact information is right here, and we would love to hear from you. Thank you, guys.
All right. Thank you so much, Team Highlights, and a big thank you to all of today's presenters. So tomorrow, all attendees will receive an email containing links to today's slide presentation, title list, certificate of completion, and video recording. For more about Booklist webinars, be sure to visit booklistonline.com/webinars, where you can view archives of past webinars and register for upcoming ones, like those you see here. You can also find out about the latest webinars on our social channels. Visit us on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and now Blue Sky. And just a note that we are no longer on X, so please find us on these other channels for the latest Booklist news and updates. Now, we are thrilled to announce that the digital version of Booklist Reader, the monthly reader's advisory magazine from the editors of Booklist, is now an ALA member benefit. Head over to our new and updated website to start reading. And if you're not already a Booklist subscriber, you'll use your ALA membership ID to sign in. Thank you so much for joining us for today's webinar. One more huge thank you to our panelists and to our sponsors, Albatros, Nomad Press, The Creative Company, and Highlights. This concludes today's webinar. See you next time.